before I start, I have just one piece of housekeeping. In talking to the percussion section, or percussion majors today, it was brought to my attention that people have been basically trashing the percussion closet. I don't know if that's any of us, but I just want to reaffirm that the percussion equipment that we have is for percussion majors and is not to be borrowed by others. And at very least, even if you break that rule, put back what you borrow in, like you would want for yourself. And we're going to work on something internally to make it a little harder to borrow that accidentally. Thanks. Okay, I was assigned today the topic of money, being a musician and money. And it reminded me that very early in my professional career, I was told that the definition of a professional musician was somebody whose spouse had a real job. That's not entirely true, but unless you're at the very top in one of the top 5 or 6 professional orchestras, as a first call opera soloist, or unless you make it really big in the pop scene, chances are that a really lucrative career probably isn't the reason we got into this in the first place. And yet, money is something that we all have to address because, face it, everybody's got to pay the rent. Everybody's got to. You'll get married. You'll have family obligations. Even now, you have cars that need tires and oil changes and insurance and all the rest. So how do we deal with that? And should we? The first thing that I'm going to. We've been asked to keep our talks to 4 minutes, so I will be highlighting only a few things. If any of you has questions about this that don't get answered today, feel free to ask outside of a class time. The very great majority of the professional musicians whom I know that no longer do music full-time didn't choose that way because their skills diminished. Rather, they chose that way because they just couldn't live that way anymore. There's a sense, it does seem to me, that if we're going to pursue music professionally, we're going to have to recognize that there is, in fact, a price to be paid. Sometimes that price is we don't quite earn what, for instance, my first college job, I earned about 2 full-time college job when I was, all I had to finish was my dissertation. I earned about 2/3 of what an accountant earns with a bachelor's degree. And I'm not saying that to complain. I made that choice myself, but that is at times reality. Nevertheless, there are, and I'm hoping, and John has suggested that maybe sometime we can have one of these discussions where we can talk about the myriads of ways that you can make some money as musicians. I think that'd be a really good idea. But the great majority of people I know who are professional musicians in some capacity have some other form of day job. They do something else. They teach lessons. They teach at institutions. Some of the people who are more performers than teachers still teach adjunct in places to earn more money. Many people like Starbucks because they have an insurance policy. There are lots of people that have worked there. And there are some people on this faculty who are fantastic performers who you'll find having other jobs just to make ends meet. That's not meant to discourage you. That's meant to say that's kind of the reality of that some of us find, and how do we deal with money. Secondly, to my mind, is the issue of do we play or sing for free? Now, this is not a lecture where I'm providing you with an answer, but it is. There often is a tacit assumption that if you're a musician, you like what you do, and you'll be willing to do it for free. That's particularly true in church, which as a first-generation Christian, to be honest, really hacks me off. I've had pastors think I was not sufficiently Christian, which may well be true, but not for this reason, because I wouldn't leave the church where I attended to play at their church for free. And I've asked them, well, do you ask the doctors of your congregation to treat the congregants of other churches for free? How about your own? But many can't understand that because this is music. One of the few actual fights I almost got in since I've been a believer was with an elder in my church who said who thought that I should, not my church here, but in the Midwest, who thought that I should give whatever they asked for free because I went there. And it was just my bad choice that he had a well-paying job and I didn't, but I should still do what I do for free. That view is out there among believers. Now, not all of them, but a lot of them, and you ought to be aware of that. The final thing I wanted to say, actually two quick final things. One, if you work, there's a difference between being an employee and being an independent contractor, and you need to learn that difference or you get sapped with a whopping tax bill at the end of the year. I've been doing this since 1982 when I went to an accountant once and I figured out how to do it after that. It's not hard, and you can do it yourself, but you just need to be aware that that is the way that is. The final thing I wanted to do was to sort of tell you my story about how, some of you know some of this already, about a decision that I made that had a lot to do with money. When I came here full-time, I've been here part-time a couple of years, and Ron asked me to come full-time. And when I came full-time, as a visiting assistant professor, my salary started at just slightly less than $40,000 a year. I turned down a job in industry that offered me $100,000 a year to come here for that less than 40. And you might say, well, you're insane. And actually, my wife was very encouraging in that she wanted me to do this. And the reason, I think, has to do with what Ron mentioned in the scripture, that we're all given gifts. And I recognize that as much as earning a good living was a big deal, I had the option to exercise gifts that the Lord had given me. And so I turned down 2.5 times as much money to come here. Most of us, if we keep after music as a profession, will find that we're forced to make choices in that way in our career. And the reason that I tell you that is that, to me, it really was worth it. And a great deal of why it was worth it is you guys. Buddy Baker, who was one of my pedagogy professors, said, much of why I like to do what I do is that I love seeing students come along. It's part of how I get paid. And if you don't get better, I don't get paid. And and really, it's about as simple as that. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have about any of those things I just sketched, and I'll leave the podium to the next presenter.